You've probably lost a fruit tree before. You planted it, watered it, waited, and it just slowly declined. Brown leaves, no fruit, dead by year 3. Most of the time, it wasn't you. It was the soil. The hard truth about most popular fruit trees is that they're incredibly picky about the ground they grow in. Too wet, they drown. Too sandy, they starve. Too compacted, the roots suffocate. Too much clay, you get root rot within a season. But here's what the gardening industry doesn't tell you. There's an entirely different category of fruit trees. Trees that were shaped by thousands of years of surviving in exactly the conditions that kill everything else. Rocky hillsides, flooded riverbanks, sand dunes, compacted city soil. 13 of them, and almost nobody plants them. Tree number 13 on this list doesn't just grow in bad soil, it actually repairs it while producing fruit. Almost nobody in the US knows what it is. Stick around, because that one's worth waiting for. If you garden on difficult ground, and most of us do, this video was made for you. Let's go! Most fruit trees are, at their core, optimists. They were bred for ideal conditions. Rich, loamy soil, perfect pH, excellent drainage. Take that away, and they fall apart fast. Here's what actually happens in bad soil. In heavy clay, water pools around the roots and cuts off oxygen. The roots essentially drown, even when the surface looks dry. In sandy or rocky soil, nutrients wash straight through before the tree can use them. In compacted ground, roots can't expand, and the tree slowly starves. In soil with poor drainage, fungal pathogens move in within months. The trees on this list were never bred for ideal conditions. They evolved in bad ones, and that changes everything about how they grow, how much they produce, and how little they ask of you. Drop your soil, type in the comments right now. Clay, sandy, rocky, wet, or just plain terrible? I'm curious which of these 13 trees ends up being the right one for you. Tree number 1, fig. Here's something most people don't know about figs. Throughout the entire Mediterranean, you can find large, healthy, productive fig trees growing directly out of rock faces and stone walls. Not near rocks, out of them. Fig trees evolved in exactly that environment. They prefer rocky, thin, and fertile soil because good drainage matters far more to them than rich nutrients. In fact, a fig given too much nitrogen produces enormous leaves and almost no fruit. The tree reads fertility as a reason to grow foliage, not food. Poor soil actually pushes it to produce. Fig trees have shallow roots. 90% of the root system sits within the top 2 feet of soil. They don't need depth. They need drainage. Give them a sunny spot where water doesn't pool, and they'll do the rest. They'll grow in sand, in gravel, in thin rocky ground that would starve most other trees. Zones 6 through 10 inches the ground. Zone 5 and colder. Grow one in a container and overwinter it in an unheated garage. First fruit often comes in year 1 or 2. 0 spraying required. This is one of the most rewarding trees you can put in difficult ground. Tree number 2, persimmon. In a flooded orchard, one where standing water covered the roots for weeks during the growing season, almost every tree died. The plums went first, then the peaches, the apricots, the apples. About a third of the pears survived in the higher spots. The persimmons did better, and the pawpaws did the best of all. That story comes from a real grower who learned it the hard way. Persimmons are built for it. The American persimmon Diospyros virginiana is native to this continent and has been adapting to its soils for thousands of years. Clay, wet ground, occasional flooding, compaction, it handles all of it. One grower reported planting persimmons in a hole that filled with water while they were digging it. The trees went in standing in water. They survived and thrived. The Fuyu variety, an Asian persimmon, takes this further. It's known for tolerating consistently moist and even boggy conditions that would rot the roots of most fruit trees. One mature Fuyu can produce 50 pounds of fruit starting in just its 2nd season. American persimmon is cold hardy to zone 4. Deer, leave it alone. Insects barely touch it. Once it's in the ground and established, it is genuinely one of the lowest maintenance fruit trees that exists. Tree number 3, mulberry. Sandy soil, rocky soil, salty soil, compacted soil, mulberry grows in all of them. It's not that mulberry tolerates bad soil, it's that mulberry genuinely does not care what kind of soil you give it. It's one of the most soil-adaptable fruit trees on the planet. In field trials and grower reports across North America, mulberry consistently performs in conditions where other trees simply give up. It doesn't need amendments. It doesn't need pH adjustments. You plant it, mulch it once, and let it do what it was built to do. And what it produces in return is extraordinary. A mature tree can give you up to 10 bushels of fruit per year. The fruit itself, deep, sweet, somewhere between a blackberry and a grape, is unlike anything in any grocery store. It ripens over a long season from late May into August, which means you're not drowning in fruit all at once. Self-fertile, no pollinator needed, hardy from zones 4 through 10. If you have one bad patch of ground that nothing will grow in, plant a mulberry. That's not optimism, it's just what the data says. If you're finding this useful, hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people with difficult soil find this content. Tree number 4, Pawpaw. Pawpaw is native to the eastern United States, and if you pay attention to where it grows in the wild, you'll notice a pattern immediately. Riverbanks, creek edges, floodplains, places where the soil is heavy, saturated, and nutrient dense from years of deposited sediment. This is a tree that evolved with wet feet. It doesn't just tolerate periodic flooding, it expects it. While other fruit trees are drowning in those conditions, Pawpaw is at home. What it produces in those conditions is remarkable. The fruit is the largest native to North America, weighing up to 12 ounces, with a flavor that is genuinely difficult to describe to someone who hasn't tried it. Mango, banana, vanilla custard, all at once in a fruit that grows wild in 26 eastern states and is almost never commercially available. Why isn't it commercially available? Because it bruises easily and only lasts 2 or 3 days at room temperature. For the home grower, that's irrelevant. For you, that's an advantage. You get something nobody else has access to. Pawpaw has no significant pest or disease problems. Deer don't eat it. A mature tree can produce over 100 pounds of fruit per year. Zones 5 through 8. Plant 2 different varieties for cross-pollination, about 20 feet apart. We're halfway through, and tree number 9 might be the single toughest fruit-producing plant you can put in the ground. Clay, chalk, flooding, drought, city pollution, it shrugs all of it off. That one is coming up right after this. What zone are you in? Leave it below. I read every comment, and it helps me point you toward the right trees for your specific conditions. Tree number 5, Jujube. In trials at Texas A and M, Jujube survived drought and excess moisture better than any other fruit plant tested. Read that again, better than any other fruit plant. Not one of the best. The best. The reason comes down to roots. A mature jujube tree develops a root system that reaches 10 to 15 feet deep. While every other tree in a drought is scrambling for surface moisture, jujube is pulling water from layers that other plants can't reach. It can produce fruit in areas that receive as little as 8 inches of rain per year. 8 inches. That's desert-level rainfall. It grows in poor soil, alkaline soil, sandy soil, and rocky soil. It tolerates moderate salinity. Beyond the extreme low-end waterlogged ground, there's almost nowhere jujube won't perform. And the fruit is genuinely worth growing for. Fresh jujubes are crisp and apple-like when young. Left on the branch, they dry naturally into something between a date and dried apple, sweet, chewy, and rich. A single mature tree can produce up to 100 pounds of fruit per year. Zones 6 through 9. Self-fertile. Grafted trees begin fruiting in 2 to 3 years. This is the tree for anyone gardening in dry, hot, difficult ground. Tree number 6, Elderberry. Elderberry grows in roadside ditches, literal ditches, along highways, in compacted soil packed with road runoff, in the wet ground that collects every rainstorm. That's not a metaphor. Growers across the Midwest report finding elderberry thriving in exactly those conditions, naturally. What elderberry cannot tolerate is drought. Everything else, poor soil, clay, wet ground, occasional flooding, partial shade, it handles without complaint. It's one of the few fruit plants that actively prefers moisture, making it perfect for the low spots and wet corners of a property where nothing else will establish. It reaches 6 to 12 feet and starts producing in its second year. The dark purple berries are used in syrups, wines, jams, and teas. The flowers, elderflowers, are equally valuable, used in cordials and desserts across Europe. The global market for elderberry products is enormous and still growing. Zones 3 through 9. Almost every gardener in the US and Europe can grow this. If you have a wet, low area you've given up on elderberry, is your answer. Tree number 7, Quince. There's a rule among experienced orchardists when it comes to wet, heavy ground. Put your stone fruits in the best spots, put your pears in the middle spots, and put your quince where the drainage is worst. Quince tolerates heavier, wetter soil than almost any other top fruit tree. While pears will manage in damp conditions, quince actively thrives there. It's a tree that was grown across Europe for centuries, precisely because it performs where other trees struggle. What it produces is worth the space. Large golden fruits in late fall, with a lemony, floral aroma that fills a room. Self-fertile, disease-resistant, hardy in zones 4 through 8. You can't eat most varieties raw. They're best cooked into jams, jellies, pastes, and desserts. But that's also what makes them valuable at a farmer's market or as preserved food. It stays small around 10 feet and lives for decades with almost no maintenance. If you have a corner of your yard that stays damp and you've written it off as unplantable, plant a quince there. It won't mind. Tree number 8, Serviceberry. Serviceberry might be the most adaptable fruit tree native to North America. Sun or deep shade, it grows. Wet soil or dry soil, it grows. Sandy or clay, it grows. High altitude or low, it grows. There are almost no conditions that genuinely stop it. Honestly, Serviceberry is the tree I recommend first to anyone who tells me their yard is too difficult for fruit trees. Because there is no such thing as too difficult for Serviceberry. I've seen it established in spots that looked completely inhospitable, and within 3 years, it was loaded with fruit. The berries called June berries in many parts of the country ripen in early summer, before almost anything else in the garden. They're sweet, nutty, blueberry-sized, and rich in antioxidants. Birds will compete with you for them, which tells you something about the quality. And as an ornamental, it's doing 3 jobs year-round. White blossoms in spring, fruit in early summer, brilliant red foliage in fall, self-fertile, zones 4 through 9. If you're planting one tree this year and you're not sure about your soil, make it a Serviceberry. Tree number 9, Hawthorn. Here it is, the one I said was coming. Hawthorn grows in heavy clay. It grows in chalk. It grows in wet ground where water stands in winter. It grows in drought. It grows alongside highways in soil packed with road salt and pollution. It grows in abandoned urban lots with compacted, degraded fill. It is, without much competition, the toughest fruit-producing plant you can grow in a temperate climate. And almost nobody thinks of it as a fruit tree. The PFAF plant database puts it plainly. It's unclear why hawthorn has never received serious attention from fruit growers, because it has excellent potential as a fruit crop and must be one of the easiest plants to grow, tolerating most sites and conditions. The Chinese hawthorn Crataegus pinnatifida produces large, tart red fruits, used for thousands of years in jams, juices, jellies, and traditional medicine. Self-fertile. Zones 5 through 9, deer-resistant, virtually no serious pest issues once established. The fruit market for hawthorn products in Asian communities is already substantial and growing. If you have ground that's defeated every other fruit tree you've tried, hawthorn is your tree. Please subscribe if you're getting value from this. The last 4 trees coming up are the ones nobody talks about, and the final one is unlike anything else on this list. Tree number 10, Aronia black chokeberry. Aronia grows in bogs, actual bogs. In the wild, you find it in swamps, along pond edges, in the kind of saturated, waterlogged ground that most plants find fatal. It's a native North American shrub that evolved in exactly those conditions and has been thriving in them for thousands of years. Beyond wet soil, Aronia handles sand, clay, alkaline pH, and road salt. The research is clear. It tolerates a wider range of soil conditions than almost any other edible fruit plant in the temperate world, and the fruit punches above its weight nutritionally. Aronia berries have higher antioxidant levels than blueberries, higher than elderberries. They're astringent, raw, but outstanding in jams, juices, wines, and smoothies. European markets, particularly in Poland and Germany, have sold Aronia products as a premium superfood for decades. The US is just starting to catch up. Self-fertile, hardy to zone 3, beautiful white flowers in spring, brilliant red foliage in fall, and dark fruit that persists into winter for the birds. If your worst ground is wet and boggy, Aronia doesn't just survive it, it was made for it. Tree number 11, Cornelian cherry. Cornelian cherry is a species of dogwood Cornus moss, and it has been growing in the difficult soils of Eastern Europe and the Middle East for centuries. Cold winters, clay-heavy ground, dry summers, it adapts to all of it. and it lives for 300 years doing it. Think about that for a moment. You plant this tree once, in ground that nothing else wants to grow in, and it outlives you, your children, and possibly your grandchildren producing fruit the entire time. It's one of the first trees to flower every year, sometimes in February, providing critical early forage for pollinators when nothing else is blooming. The tart red fruits are rich in vitamin C and used across Eastern Europe for syrups, jams, wines, and sauces, almost completely unknown in the United States. Zones 4 through 8. Once established, it needs almost nothing from you. This is the definition of a permanent planting, something you put in difficult ground and walk away from, knowing it will still be producing long after you're gone. Tree number 12. Medlar. Medlar is where orchardists send their problem ground. Heavy soil, poor drainage, the spots where pears struggle and Quince barely manages. Medlar goes there and makes itself at home. It's a small tree 6 to 8 feet with white blossoms in spring and unusual brown fruit in late fall. The fruit needs to be bledded, left to soften naturally after the first frost before eating. When it's ready, the flavor is spiced apple custard, warm, complex, unlike anything else you can grow. Medlar appeared in medieval European cooking, in Shakespeare, in the kitchens of royal households for centuries. Then it was forgotten almost entirely. Today, almost no one in the U.S. grows it or even knows what it is. Self-fertile, disease-resistant, hardy in zones 5 through 8. It needs no spraying, minimal pruning, and produces reliably in the kind of heavy, wet ground that defeats most other fruit trees. If you have a low, damp corner of your property that you've written off entirely, Medlar might be the most interesting thing you ever plant there. Tree number 13. Sea buckthorn. I said at the start that the last tree on this list doesn't just grow in bad soil, it fixes it. Here's what I meant. Sea buckthorn's root system lives in symbiosis with nitrogen-fixing bacteria called Frankia. These bacteria take nitrogen directly from the atmosphere and deposit it into the soil. Every year, sea buckthorn grows in bad ground. It is actively making that ground better for everything around it. It's not just tolerating poor soil, it's repairing it. And the conditions it tolerates before that repair is complete are extraordinary. Rocky slopes, sand dunes, coastal ground saturated with salt, post-construction backfill with almost no soil structure at all. One nursery reports planting sea buckthorn in gravelly parking strips, rocky outcroppings where nearly no soil had formed, and coarse sand and the plants thrived where nothing else stood a chance. Hardy to zone 3, that's negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It survives temperatures from minus 45 to 105 degrees. The fruit is bright orange, intensely tart, and used in premium health products across Europe and Asia juices, skincare oils, nutritional supplements. The vitamin C content is genuinely extraordinary. You need a male and a female plant for fruit. Once established, it spreads through suckers and becomes increasingly productive year after year, all while steadily improving the soil around it. This is the last tree on the list, and in my opinion, it's the most remarkable one. A fruit tree that earns its place twice over, once by producing and once by healing the ground it grows in. 13 trees, 13 different answers to difficult soil. Fig for rocky and thin, persimmon for wet and compacted, mulberry for anything and everything, pawpaw for heavy and saturated, jujube for dry and infertile, elderberry for low wet ground, quince for heavy clay, serviceberry for wherever nothing else works, hawthorn for genuinely hostile conditions, Aronia for actual bogs, Cornelian cherry for permanence, Medlar for the forgotten corners, and sea buckthorn for ground you want to actually restore. Not all 13 will suit your climate or your zone, but I guarantee that at least 4 or 5 of them will, and any one of them will produce in ground that you may have already given up on. Which of these fits your situation? Tell me your soil type and your zone in the comments. I'll do my best to point you toward the right one. If this video helped, subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who's been struggling with difficult ground. I put out content like this every week, practical, research-backed growing information for people who want real results. I'll see you in the next one. Happy growing.